Another country that fought to free themselves from slavery. And because of their fight, all of us were freed. You'll talk about Haiti, but Haiti didn't get us free. They went back into slavery, into debt. There was another country that fought. It was called the Baptist War. Anyone ever heard about the Baptist War? The Baptist War. That was Jamaica. You all didn't know the Jamaicans fought. The Jamaicans fought. It lasted 10 days, but at that point, England realized that slavery was not tenable anymore, and the Parliament was in a panic, the economies were in a panic. They realized that this thing, you couldn't control the slaves anymore. And the next year, all slaves in the British colony was freed because the Jamaicans fought. All right? So don't ever forget the full history. The Jamaicans did. You know, us Bahamians, we wasn't fighting for nothing. He's right here. Some of you in Foxville, they didn't even know the slaves was free. Just like, we just here working, no? We just here working. That's why Foxville Day is a week after. It's time for a paradigm shift. The reason the slaves were freed is because they kept fighting. They don't tell you about that part of it. The reason the slaves were freed is because they kept fighting, and it became untenable. You couldn't hold these people anymore because they kept fighting. Bahamas, there's a time for everything, including a time for fight. It's time to fight for our land because we're losing this. Now let's bring this home. Land is not about a place to put a house. Land is about what the land can produce. Throughout history, even from the beginning, when God gave Adam and Eve the land, he told them what was in the land, what it was good for. It bare fruit. It had the water and the onyx and the gold, and it said it was a good gold. That was under the ground. They didn't even wear gold. Why he was telling them about the good gold? Think about that. He was giving them for the future, something to benefit them. And they lost that land. The enemy caused them to lose that land. And then, what was the punishment? The land was cursed. That's about production. It's about what the land could produce. And then when the children of Israel were going over in the promised land, they looked at the land and they sent the scouts, and the scouts came back, and they didn't talk about the bridges and the buildings and any of that stuff. They talked about the natural resources. They brought back some of the fruits and said, look at this. They talked about the milk and honey. The natural resources. Okay? And so the land is supposed to produce. When God introduced tithes, they say in church, but that's part of history. When God introduced tithes in Deuteronomy 14, tithes was a tax of what the land produced. Whatever the land produced, you were supposed to give 10% of the increase. And so tithes was for those who had land and the land produced. Land is about what it produces, not about you living on the land. That is why in the documentary we did in 2020, I did calculations to show you, rough estimate calculations. But I wanted you to see that the land your house is on is more valuable than they could sell the land and the house for. While we was busy just trying to get somewhere to live,